If you've made a mistake, how are you going to overcome that mistake? And how are you going to trust yourself again so that you don't live in doubt and mistrust, holding back and hesitating, worrying that you're going to make further mistakes? So the first thing is mistakes are not wrong. The second thing is you are not less than because of any mistake you've made. You are always innately whole, complete, divine, good enough, worthy and deserving. And 3, the true test of your spirit and your character and your power and the true test of what your life will be from this moment forward, irrespective of any mistake you have made, is what you make it mean relating to any mistakes you have made. Are you going to make a past mistake mean something about who you are now and what your future is, and the choice, yes, the choice you make to make up meaning and diminish yourself and to place yourself in a weakened position because of a very human error will ripple into the rest of your life. So it's a really important moment right now to recognize you can completely transform this. You can own and honor the mistake you've made, whatever it is. You can overcome that mistake in a really powerful way, psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually. And you can absolutely, definitively, categorically trust yourself fully again to step forward and try new things and do new things and put your heart out there, whether it's in your career, business, relationships, lifestyle, goals, or dreams, doesn't matter what it is. And just remember, if you are not willing to make a mistake, then you are not willing to live. Because people who are living fully, who are throwing themselves into this beautiful and sometimes very challenging experience of life, are doing it knowing full well that mistakes are part of the game of being human. They are unavoidable. It's not about whether you make a mistake. It's about who you be when you have made a mistake, what you make it mean, and what you're going to do about it, and the mindset you're going to have so that you can step out strong again, committed again, fully in your goals and dreams again.
You're listening to Practical Spirituality with B, the podcast with spiritual advice for your everyday life, helping you align with your soul so you can live with purpose, fulfillment, and magic. I'm Bernadette Logue. You can call me B, and I'm excited to share this episode with you.
Okay, hello friend, welcome back to the podcast. In this episode, we're going to go through number 1, different kinds of situations where we can end up making mistakes, as in what was the context that led us to a mistake, so that we can go through each one and I can give you tips and practical coaching advice for how to frame and understand those situations differently, which will give you a little bit of freeing up, hopefully a bit of a paradigm shift so you can look at things differently, okay? The second thing we're going to do is go through some really important keys to remember for processing those mistakes that you've made and now creating a fresh blank slate to move forward from. And then third and finally, I'm going to talk about how to trust yourself again, because a lot of people that make a mistake then consciously or not even consciously just choose, I can't be trusted and I'm not going to do stuff because it didn't work out last time. And so I'm better to just give up on myself, okay? And that can be a conversation you're having with yourself and a deliberate choice you made, or it can be a hesitancy where deep down inside you feel that uneasiness and mistrust and you're kind of avoiding life because of it, okay? So the first thing is with the types of mistakes. These relate to how you made decisions, not to the circumstances, okay? Number 1. Say you did your absolute best. Say you, from wherever you were standing, you made a choice or you took an action with what you knew at the time. You really did your absolute best in every way, shape or form, and something didn't go well. Okay, how could life ask any more of you than what you gave? What kind of superhuman, like outrageously unrealistic ideal are you holding yourself to with absolute love and respect? If you did your absolute best from where you stood with what you knew, and you made a choice or you took an action and it didn't go well, it didn't go the way you wanted it to go, how could you expect any more of yourself? And why would you think that life would expect any more of you than doing your absolute best? So if this scenario relates to you, you need to cut yourself a break. And you need to really think, if this was someone else that I cared about and this was their situation, what would I be saying to them? We need to ease up a little bit on number one, the idealism and the perfectionism. Number two, cut ourselves a break, be kinder to yourself, recognize there isn't any more you could have known or done from where you stood. Sure, in retrospect, now you have additional information and feedback, maybe you'd make a different choice, but you did not have that at the time and you did not know that at the time, and you can't be expected to operate on something that you do not know that you do not know. Okay, so therefore it's a mindset shift to see yourself with greater tenderness and understanding, to appreciate where you were coming from, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but to actually see the value in whatever the mistake was for your learning and your growth. Take from it what you can possibly take from it to aid you and make you a bigger and better person and a stronger person as a result. And FYI, when we do our best in life and we do all the things that we think are best to do and we feel are best and we're operating, in balance and things don't go well, that sometimes happens. It's not wrong. We make it wrong because we think that I should want X and do Y and get what I want. And if I didn't, I must be a failure. I must be not smart. I must be XYZ. Life must not like me. We make up all sorts of stories, instead of recognizing that life is an evolutionary classroom and we are here to learn and we are here to interact. And there's a lot we can take from situations where we don't get what we want. And there's a lot we can take from making mistakes. The second scenario in types of mistakes is you trusted your logic, your intellect, your mind, the data, the facts and the information, but you ignored your intuition. Something didn't feel right, but you ignored it. Perfect. What a great life lesson. So you did that and something didn't go well. So what do you take away from it? My intuition is to be listened to. My intuition is to be recognized. It is to be factored in. You don't have to go so far as to say I'm going to ignore my logic and mind and I'm only doing exactly what my intuition says, because that's extreme and there's no need to do that. We have logic for a reason and we have intuition for a reason, and they make a beautiful marriage. Just notice, I've learned this valuable lesson about the power of intuition and that we are not mental creatures. We are psychological, emotional, and intuitive creatures with different sensory perceptions, a sixth sense called intuition, and different tools at our disposal, including our logic. So this is about saying, you know what, it's a really valuable thing for me to learn and I'm going to utilize that for my future. And it's not a mistake, because what did it do? It opened you up to the power of your intuition. It taught you a life lesson, a free education in these gifts that you have of the mind and the heart, of the logic and the intuition, of the factual and the spiritual sides of who you are. The third kind of mistake type or context is you trusted your intuition and you ignored your logic and things didn't go well. You made a choice or took an action, didn't go well. Okay, people will often go here, well, I can't trust my intuition, I can't be trusted. That was a terrible mistake. I should always go on logic now. Don't be extreme. Okay, what it is about you have these faculties, all of them, for a reason. And it's about balancing everything. So the thing also with trusting your intuition is that there have been many times that my intuition and signs and synchronicities and, divine guidance have led me down a path and it didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. But It put me in understanding, wisdom, life experience, testing of my strength, my faith, my trust, my understanding of life, meeting the certain people that were important, unfolding situations in a way that in retrospect I can see was vital, but I didn't get the outcome I thought I wanted, and I didn't get it to go the way I thought it should have gone if I, quote unquote, followed my intuition. But we do have to have some humility that we do not understand in its fullness the dynamics of life. We can only see from our narrow viewpoint of our pinpoint perspective of reality. There's something much bigger going on, and there's a lot of power in having grace to say, hey, I followed my intuition, I honour myself for doing that. I ignored some of my logic, which could have been really helpful for me in how I executed my choice, or the timing in which I executed my choice, or the way I went about it, or the process that I followed. But I'm not going to throw my intuition out the window because it didn't go the way I thought, or something really not very good happened. Okay? What we want to take from this is when you have intuition about something, you can then say, okay, this is pointing me to a direction. Now, let me also utilize my mind and the external stimulus and data to navigate what way is the best way, the how, the details, okay? So you might have had an intuition, I need to do X, Y, Z with my life, but you ignored your logic about doing it in a balanced way that would feel safe and good to you, and you just kind of leapt off a cliff. It wasn't helpful for you. It didn't go well. Doesn't mean your intuition was wrong. Just means there was opportunity to utilize your logic in the way you went about it. Okay, that's just one example. So you take from it the learning. You be grateful for the experience. You look at how can I utilize this for my benefit going forward. Instead of getting shy about life and down on yourself about your not being capable of X, Y, Z, you realize it's trying to set you up to be wiser, stronger, more capable. People that are out there living full lives, doing all the stuff that they want to do, are people that have fallen over a bazillion times, have stood back up, have dusted themselves off, put a Band-Aid on their cuts and kept going. Because they know that this is part of it. Like, you fail 9 times, you win the 10th, or whatever it is, right? This is part of life's journey and life's game. The next scenario for types of mistakes is this. You didn't do your best and you behaved out of your pain body, in avoidance, you acted from your ego, you let difficult emotions take you over, and you let that run you, and that ran your choices and your actions, and it ended up in a hot mess, where you've either harmed yourself or harmed someone else or lost an opportunity or whatever it might be. Okay? In this scenario, there needs to be a heck of a lot of compassion for what it is to be a human being, because it ain't easy sometimes, right? And we do get in our ego and we do have big feelings. And PS to that, did you get taught growing up, like when you were 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, when you're gaining the majority of your conditioning, or during your schooling, did anyone teach you about how to process psychological challenges and how to process your emotions? Like, I mean, practically and tangibly. Because if you didn't, no one gave you that, and then you go into adulthood, what do you think's going to happen? Your pain body grows, your ego takes a hold to protect you and keep you in your sense of self and separateness, and then you get all your feelings, and they just barrel up inside, and then you try to cope, and all you're trying to do is keep yourself safe, away from pain, and go towards pleasure. And we make choices, and then we realise, oh gosh, that doesn't go well. And I've made a mistake, and I've hurt myself or I've hurt another person. The important thing is what you do about it when that's happened. And that is a huge awakening and opportunity to say, hey, I am at a great point in my life where I have recognised that I have a thing called a psychological construct. I have avoidance patterns running, I have an ego, and I have big feelings, and they are running me. And so this is an awakening. I am experiencing the call of my soul to awaken, that there is a greater part of me that with awareness can lead me out of this, and I can choose to heal these aspects of myself, to right the balance, so I can have my mind work for me, give it loving leadership. I can speak to my ego and allow my ego to work in its best, but not in a harmful way where it separates, just where it gives me a good, confident sense of self, right? I can look at my avoidance patterns, understand where they came from, learn from them, and redirect my behavior so I can grow as a person, all of which will allow you to have better relationships, more health, greater career outcomes, healthier finances, a better lifestyle, more happiness, more peace, more joy. So this is a massive opportunity. Next scenario is that you've made a mistake, a choice or an action you've taken didn't go well, and you just didn't know what you didn't know, and that's it, full stop. And this is the blind spot. There's what you know, what you know you don't know, and then there is this big shadowy place called what I don't know that I don't know. And when life or situations or other people highlight for you, shine a light on what you don't know that you don't know, it is really valuable, because how are you going to know that you don't know unless something or someone tells you? And so sometimes you're going to make mistakes and you're going to go, oh my gosh, I literally, genuinely had no idea. It was like I was walking around with earmuffs on and a blindfold. Okay? So again, you've got to have some grace with yourself, be kind to yourself, accept this nature of life, and pick yourself up and utilize this understanding, this awakening to what you didn't know, and how you're going to use it for your benefit is the question. The next kind of mistake type is this. You ignored the cues that you saw because you didn't want to see them. You ignored the red flags and the cues, and you made a choice and took action anyway, and you ignored those cues because they didn't match up with what you wanted and you just didn't want to see them. And this can happen, for example, a really common area this happens is in relationships. So you see red flags, but you want love so much and you want companionship so much and you want the person to be the person they are in your mind that you ignore the factual behaviour that's going on in front of you with things that are making you go, this doesn't seem good, this doesn't seem right. Okay, and the same thing can happen. Maybe you say you take a job and job ends up not being good and you're like, I made such a mistake taking this job, I should never have taken it. And maybe you realise there were cues, but you really needed the work, right? And that's really valid. And you really wanted it to be the job of your dreams, but actually there were some red flags in the behaviour of the people in the interview, or there were some red flags when you researched the company, but you ignored them because it wasn't what you wanted to see, right? Which is a little bit like having confirmation bias towards what you want. So you look for what you want and you ignore what you don't want to see. And it is actually a really important point. You could do a whole podcast just on this, is the willingness and the courage to see what you don't want to see the absolute glaring truth of something, even though it doesn't match what you prefer, because then you have total information, then you have total clarity and picture from which to make decisions. And this is true about seeing the truth about other people and situations, but very importantly, seeing the truth about our own selves, because we can have red flags that we are actually behaving in a certain way ourselves and we ignore them as well. So from that situation, you take away, oh, you know what? It is safe for me to turn my attention to the red flags I see. I have got capacity to calmly see them and make a decision and choice. And if I see them, those red flags, those cues that something isn't right, and I actively acknowledge them and I still choose to take an action, make a choice, and it doesn't work out, well, at least I can say I knew full well, right? I knew full well, and you just take responsibility for it. The next kind of situation we can find ourselves in is that we did something to fill a need that we had inside, but we did it in a not healthy way, and it ends up hurting us or hurting others. Okay, maybe we had an emotional need, maybe we had a psychological need, and we've gone and filled it with something or someone or some behaviour, and it's been harmful. And you just want to get above the situation a little bit and say, when there is pain inside, we're so desperately want as human beings to feel peace, and we don't want to feel pain, and so we will look to fill a need inside, and we will often look for the first thing that's available, the most obvious and the easiest, right? And so this can be related to situations where we have a pain, a trauma, misperception of who we are, limiting beliefs, all sorts of things inside, and we can turn to food, we can turn to alcohol, we can turn to drugs, we can turn to all sorts of addictions and behaviours because that is a symptom, a behaviour that is trying to address a very real pain and need that we have inside, and this can end up harming us and harming others the way we go about it. So there's a really important moment in that recognition to be so compassionate to what it is to be human, to learn from that and to acknowledge what the underlying thing is and to address the underlying need with what it really needs, which is the healing, right? It doesn't need a Band-Aid, it needs the healing, okay? And then the next type and last type is similar. We do something to avoid a problem. So we bury our head in the sand and we don't address our finances or our relationship problems or our relationship with our parents, or maybe something's going on in our body and we pretend it's not happening because we don't really want to know what's going on in there in case it's scary to deal with, so we ignore it and it gets worse. Or, there's something toxic going on at work or something really dodgy and shady's going on and we pretend we don't know because we don't want to deal with it. That's avoidance of a problem, and it creates long-term issues, right, for ourselves and others. And so in that situation, you just have to say, why did I avoid dealing with that? Because I'm afraid. Because it's inconvenient, because I don't want it to be that way. And that's okay that was my come from position. But you know what? It is what it is, and it has to be acknowledged. It is a problem, and I do need to look at it, and I will get power from looking directly in the face of it. As scary as it is, that's where my power will come from, is diving into it, seeing all the details, and then I'm empowered to do something because I'm informed instead of avoiding it and hoping it's going to go away. Okay? So that's the first part of this, how to overcome a mistake, is there's all different ways that we end up getting into situations where we've made a quote-unquote mistake. So I'm going to now give you part 2, which is about keys to remember for how to overcome mistakes. Okay, the first thing is you must process your feelings about the mistake. So I just want you to write down, what did you make it mean about this mistake? Well, I am not capable, I'm not trustworthy, I'm terrible at making decisions, that should never have happened. Life has led me down the garden path because I trusted these sign synchronicities and my intuition, and now look what's happened, or whatever it is, right? Write down the story that you have about the mistake. Then write down underneath that, another bullet point, what are the feelings you're carrying about the mistake, e.g. shame, regret, guilt, anger, frustration, okay, whatever the feelings are. Then, if you know emotional freedom techniques, also called tapping, immediately begin using tapping to process the mistake and all the feelings to free yourself emotionally and energetically. There is no moving forward and trusting yourself again if you're going to carry with you shame, guilt, regret, anger, frustration, because those are not conducive to self-trust and they're not conducive to moving on. What they are is an energetic chain to the situation. So, for example, if you want to overcome a mistake, it needs to be at peace in your mind. But if you have anger, guilt, and regret about it, then anything that looks like, smells like, or reminds you of that past mistake is going to immediately trigger all of those feelings, and you're going to relive it inside your body. Okay? So it's super important to process all your feelings about it. The next thing is to remember, mistakes are vehicles for growth, whether you like it or not. Even if a mistake could have been avoided, and you made the mistake, and you can find all the evidence to blame yourself for the mistake, the bottom line is, from every single mistake comes powerful learning. And so we don't make mistakes so that we can learn. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if you have made a mistake, you might as well recognize there's massive learning for you. And what is learning? It's wisdom. And what is wisdom? It's going to make you more self-aware, better in relationships, more successful, more capable, more employable, a better human being, more spiritually aligned. All sorts of things can come out of it. More successful with your finances, more magnetic and attractive to other people. Because when you get learning, you get wisdom. And when you use that wisdom, you live differently. And that improves your life. And note on the side of that is, if you decide you're not going to try anymore, you're not going to live anymore, you don't want to fail and you don't like life getting messy, so you're just not going to do things that might involve potentially ever making a mistake, then you are not living. You are, bluntly put with love to you, waiting for the end of your life to come. You're biding your time. And I say this because I have reverence for your soul and reverence for the fact your heart is beating and infinite intelligence is beating your heart and running your body. It wants you here, it has you here, and it isn't so that you can sit in doubt and fear. It's so that you can love yourself and support yourself through the experience of fear and doubt and out the other side. So you will evolve in the process. And as you evolve in the process, you dance and play with life in a more expansive way. So mistakes are potent leverage points for massive learning, healing, and growth. And here's what's beautiful about it. When we learn and heal and grow through challenges and mistakes, it forms wisdom. And we've talked about that. You can use the wisdom to expand your life. But very specifically, that wisdom can form part of your contribution, your purpose. So whatever your sense of purpose is in life, all of this life experience becomes gold to you. It just is gold inside the deposit house of your spirit and your being, and it makes you so much more valuable and wise. So your contribution becomes wiser, deeper, more potent, more valuable for you to have a purposeful life, but also for everybody that's going to be on the receiving end of that. Next key is this: you have to take the learning. That is absolutely vital. If you make a mistake, there is no problem with making a mistake. There's only a problem if you ignore it and then just do it again and again and again and again and again, and you never take the learning from it. And P.S., I had a conversation with a spiritual friend of mine who's very wise, and we talked about how we have run a pattern and we've each learned that we've hit our head against the same wall over and over again, not taking the learning, not taking the lesson, and having the humility to admit that and to realize it might be the 4th or the 5th or the 10th time you do it before you wake up and go, oh my gosh, this is not like life beating down on me. This is not like I have to just work really hard at this over and over. I'm not getting something. There's something I'm not understanding. Oh, I need to come at this from a different state of being, a different energy, a different mindset, or I'm going down the path that isn't good for me. I need to stop, banging my head up against a brick wall and just turn around and realize there's an open doorway to the side of it. Okay, so you've got to take the learning. To support you with that, you just want to ask yourself, how can I use this experience and what it taught me to be better and more aligned in the future? How can I use this to be better as a person and more aligned in the future to make better decisions, better actions? How can this aid me? Okay, next important key to remember for overcoming the mistakes is this. What do you need to clean up? Because energetically, we stay chained to the past until we process our feelings and we clean up anything that needs to be cleaned up. So cleaning up can be forgiving yourself, forgiving other people, apologizing to yourself, or apologizing to other people. Next up is knowing that your paradigm, your beliefs about mistakes, your perspective about mistakes are going to dictate how you deal with mistakes from now onwards. If you were trained by your parents, and this is not uncommon, that it's not okay to make mistakes, then you are living as an adult with your parents' viewpoint, which is it's not okay to make mistakes. So therefore you will try to be perfect. And because that's impossible, you will make mistakes and you will then feel like a failure. Not because you are, but because somebody trained you to believe that. So you get to, as an adult now, make up your mind. What will your paradigm about mistakes be? So for example, like my paradigm about mistakes is that it's impossible to be perfect. It's better to be in the game than be on the sidelines. When I make a mistake, at least I can have a laugh about it and learn something from it Even if it's super painful, I'm going to take it as a valuable life lesson. But for example, I had a conversation with someone a couple of weeks ago and they said, well, growing up, I basically got told unless I was A+ perfect at everything, then you've got something wrong and you better go and fix it. With not very pleasant energy and language and emotions and facial expressions attached to that. Now, when you're young, that's very, very impactful. And what it causes is a complete fear of making mistakes. And then if you make a mistake, it becomes like Armageddon, like the world is falling apart. But you could choose now as an adult to have a paradigm about mistakes, a story about mistakes. Like, it's okay to make mistakes. Mistakes are part of living fully. When I make a mistake, the only important thing is what I make it mean and what I learn from it and how I'm going to use it to make me a better person and make a better contribution into the world. Okay, the next and final part of this is about trusting yourself again. So the first thing is, I want you to think about this. Quite often we run a story that says, oh, if only I had, and what we're doing is we are living in the past and we're rejecting ourselves. If only I had, past tense, if only I had been different, rejection of self, been better, rejection of self. So instead of saying that and doing that, to start trusting yourself again, you need to change the approach. And we want to go from stopping this past focus and this rejection of self to starting a present focus and an embracing of your potential. And a present and embracing of potential looks like this. Now that I know XYZ, so instead of if only I had, we change to, well, now that I know all that I know, or now that I know XYZ, I can use this to my advantage, for example. The second thing is, to trust yourself again, you've got to change your standards and expectations of yourself so that they are achievable. So all it means is this: no perfectionism and no unreachable ideals. Have high standards, have standards for excellence, but that's different to unachievable ideals and perfectionism. So stop holding yourself to something you can't be, which is perfect, or never making a mistake, because it ain't going to happen unless you stop living. The last part of this is this: trust is not black and white. To trust yourself again, and I had a conversation about this with someone this week, and I promised the person I would make an episode about this. There is not a polarized thing when it comes to self-trust. It's not this: I trust myself completely, or I don't trust myself at all. That is not how it works. You can trust yourself in certain areas of your life. You might be like, I trust myself in my health and fitness. I trust myself in my career and business. I trust myself with money. I don't trust myself in relationships. Okay, so it's nuanced. So it's not a black and white, I don't trust myself or I do trust myself. It can get even more micro than that. I do trust myself in relationships, in social, in work, in objective things, in family, but not intimate relationships. Okay, so now we've got the real story. It's not I don't trust myself or I fully trust myself. It's very specific to very particular scenarios, okay? And you want to shift to understand this. It's not that you're not trustworthy. When you're like, I can't trust myself again because I make a mistake. It's not that you're not trustworthy. It's that you're concerned and confused about how to process information when you're making choices and taking action. That's what it is. You're like, well, if I've got all the information and I'm seeing how I feel inside and I've got all the data, I'm confused about how to process that to make decisions and take actions, to trust in myself and not feel doubtful or hesitant in that moment. It's very nuanced, okay? So here is all you need to think about on this point in order to start to trust yourself again. All you need to do, the only thing your soul would ask of you, the only thing life can ask of you is this: I promise to myself that I will do my best in any given situation, factoring in the facts of a situation and how I feel inside to make the best decision possible in that moment in time, full stop. Because how can you know the future? How can you know all the facts of the universe? How can you know everybody and every situation that could possibly influence the situation you're in? You can't. You don't know what you don't know. So you have to trust in life and in what you do have available. And you trust yourself again by setting yourself up with a method and a process that you can absolutely trust in, which is this. Again, in any given moment, I promise to myself I will do my absolute best to make the best choices, to take the best actions, to say the best things I know how to say based on what's going on around me and what I see and hear and how I feel inside. And it is not about being perfect, and it's not about getting it right, quotations. It's about doing the best in the heat of the moment. Because sometimes it'll be like a snap decision you have to make, or something you have to say on the spot. You don't have a lot of processing time. But what you have to trust is your subconscious, your body, your intuition, all the facets of you that support you without you even knowing it's happening. Right? Your body is beating its heart, your subconscious is running you in all these magical ways all the time, and you don't even question that. You trust it implicitly that when you get up and walk around every day, your body's going to do all its things. So there's all this wisdom inside of you that runs you without you trying. You have to start to trust in that and know you can use your conscious mind interacting with that intelligence within you to consider the facts of the situation, consider how you feel, and simply do your best in that moment from where you stand, knowing that's all you can ever do, that's all you can ever ask of yourself, and that's all life will ever ask of you. I hope this has been helpful, talking about mistakes, talking about how to see them in a really healthy and empowered way, how to overcome them, how to trust yourself again. If you need any help with this, right now I am doing a private mind mastery coaching package, combining one of my most popular mind mastery processes and programs with private one-on-one sessions with me. I have 10 spaces available. There's a few of those spaces are taken already. If you are interested in enrolling in this, it is available as an offer until the 5th of April or prior if all 10 spaces are taken by then. All you need to do to find out more is email support@bernadettelogue.com, support@bernadettelogue.com, and in the subject line, write breakthrough. If you want help with laying the past to rest, overcoming mistakes, letting go, fully loving and trusting yourself again, and fully living, this is for you. It's a very powerful process that will put you back in the seat of your soul, put you in alignment with your intuition and your greatest logic, and give you the confidence to move forward, while at the same time we will energetically release you from the past and have you elevate into your most powerful self. So again, to get information about that, email support@bernadettelogue.com, subject line breakthrough. I'll send you back all the details, pricing information, what to expect. You can see if it feels right to you. It's been a pleasure being here with you, and I'm excited to share the next episode with you really soon.
Thanks for listening to Practical Spirituality with B. I'll talk to you next episode for more spiritual advice for your everyday life, helping you align with your soul so you can live with purpose, fulfillment, and magic.